Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the new documentary, King on Screen. This is directed by Daphne Byrne and focuses on the adaptations of Stephen King's novels into films. And one thing right off the bat, this obviously is like a lower budget kind of documentary. You can feel it. There's a couple things right off the bat that are a little shoddy in terms of its production. There's a framing device to this that's supposed to like get you in the mood for Stephen King. It's this dramatization. It's not great. It's distracting. It's weird. It's cheap. Like, hey, look, Stephen King reference, Stephen King reference, Stephen King reference. It's not exactly the best acted. It doesn't look the greatest, and I wish they just cut off the front and the beginning and just got rid of those. Then, you know, usually at the beginning of the documentary, you have like a montage-esque kind of summary. It's your executive summary before you dive into the actual film. The sound mixing between the music and not being able to hear the commentators was really bad during that. And right off the bat, I'm like, wow, this is a really not great made documentary. And then there's definitely moments where this drags. And it has bad pacing for an hour and 45-minute movie. It drags. It feels like it's going way too slow at times. But you do have, and you have a mix of some of these films they dive into in a really meaningful way, like The Shining, like Stand By Me, like The Shawshank Redemption, adding depth. There's some other films they skate right over. There's some films where I wish they dove a little bit deeper. Like, they do spend a decent time with Dr. Sleep, but I wish there was more, but that's a personal thing. I do like how they have all of the filmmakers that made all these adaptations, for the most part. No Brian De Palma there, but you get Frank Darabont, you have Mike Flanagan, you have, unfortunately you don't get, like, the Brian De Palmas, the Rob Reiners, but you do get some interesting commentators here that add layers and depth. And a lot of them are big Stephen King fans, and you can tell the passion that they bring to the table with this. They do have some diving into, like, trying to understand adaptations in general and what needs to be a good adaptation, which that conversation really sparks an interesting dialogue with The Shining, because it's not a good adaptation of The Shining, but it is a great horror film. It's just very different. And it's one of those kinds of things where it kind of got me, you know, movies about making movies, documentaries about film, things that I really enjoy. This film might not be the strongest from a technical aspect. It might have its flaws, but it's very informative. If you're a Stephen King fan, it really works for you, and really trying to get a better grasp of like what makes Stephen King novels so great and how films have been successful or not successful of extracting that essence and making something interesting on screen that works as a film. And I do think this documentary, by the end, besides the last little teaser scene that's a dramatization, I think really ends with you having a greater appreciation for filmmaking and adaptations, and I think that's an interesting thing, and this is definitely worth a watch, especially if you're a King fan. But those are my thoughts on King on Screen. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.